Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to a live broadcast of a Virtues Pick. I'm Bob Jackman. I'm the teacher and Virtues Facilitator at the Charles J. Andrew Youth and Family Treatment Center in Cheshire. I hope everybody is happy with the double bubble. You remember the old bubble gum that used to be around many years ago. I don't know if you still get it or not, but it's called double bubble. I think that's the joke of the day now. So it was really nice to be able to get together with some family members, and I think I'm all hugged out this morning. But our virtue, the virtue that we picked this morning, is one that I think will resonate with lots of people. And certainly I'd like you to put some thought into what this virtue is all about. It seems like every virtue I pick is the best virtue. But I think in reality, once you pick up the virtue, once you pick a virtue, that is the one that's important to you at that time, okay? And in this case, the one that was picked this morning was self-discipline. So what is self-discipline? I can hear people now saying, hey, I need self-discipline. When it comes to exercise and eating and, staying on task and, not procrastinating, that kind of stuff. We all need our self-discipline. So here's what self-discipline is. Self-discipline is having the self-control to do only what we truly choose to do, rather than being blown about in the winds of our desires. Self-discipline gives us the will to persevere. It helps us to meet our goals, to be productive instead of procrastinating. It keeps us from saying or doing things we would regret. We are vigilant and honest with ourselves, which frees us to live by our highest values. We are able to weed out bad habits and cultivate good ones. Self-mastery is fulfilling to our souls. And here's a quote from Buddhism. Those who make channels for water control the waters. Makers of arrows make the arrows straight. Carpenters control their timber, and the holy control their souls. Quite interesting. So the practice of self-discipline. Now you know you're practicing self-discipline when you have the self-control to make wise choices. You resist distractions. You persevere in meeting your goals. You get things done. You have the strength to be tactful. You carefully cultivate your character. I am thankful for the gift of self-discipline. It is the gardener of my soul. Now, if I take a look in the Family Virtues Guide, let's see what they have to say about self-discipline. When you are self-disciplined, you create structure in your life, like practicing the trumpet or brushing your teeth every single night. You don't procrastinate. With self-discipline, you take charge of yourself. So, why practice self-discipline? When you have self-discipline, you are controlling your own behavior so others don't have to. Self-discipline brings you freedom. You get things done efficiently, so you don't have to scramble at the last minute or feel burdened by all the tasks that are waiting. Procrastination, of course, which is putting things off until the last minute, is a very heavy burden. Someone asked me one time, Bob, what's procrastination? I said, I'll tell you tomorrow. When people lack self-discipline, they lose control of their emotions. Other people get hurt or upset. And the undisciplined person gets into trouble. Without self-discipline, life is helter-skelter. You never know what you'll never know what you'll do next. When you practice self-discipline, no one has to watch you or control you because you are watching yourself and exercising self-control. You get to decide what you will do rather than waiting for people to make you do it. So, the discipline, the earlier you can start discipline with children, of course, the better. Because what discipline does, it starts to nurture and foster the self-discipline that's inside of the child. So that as the child gets older, and let's say becomes a teenager, they will be able to discipline themselves. Okay? So, and you can give examples for adults too. If an adult drinks too much and gets, becomes a nuisance, well, the police will come and arrest him and put him in jail, and that's somebody else applying the discipline. But if the person had self-discipline, they wouldn't drink too much to start with, If a child goes and, has the piece of cake that mom said they could have, but then mom notices that they're having another piece, and then another piece. Wait a minute. Mom has to discipline them now. Mom has to stop them. And of course, the whole idea of disciplining a child is to educate the child, not to punish the child, not to hurt the child, not to make the child feel bad, but to teach them that this is the way we need to do things, okay? And if we discipline properly, of course, the child is going to develop that self-discipline. So then your life with a teenager becomes a lot better, I have a book here that I would recommend anybody getting it if they so desire. It's called Spiritual Intelligence, A Practical Guide to Personal Happiness by Dr. Khavari. Khavari, PhD. Now, I'll show you his picture, but I think everything else will be backwards, okay? But that's his picture there. And it's just absolutely amazing book. And I just want to read this little bit here that says, the joy of discipline, okay? The joy of discipline. And discipline is supposed to be, end up being joyful. For example, if you have a well-disciplined teenager that's practicing self-discipline, and you say to the child, it's 8 o'clock now, you have school tomorrow, it's your bedtime, then the teenager goes on to bed, no questions. Now you have an opportunity to sit back and watch a movie or, play a board game or go on your iPhone or whatever, right? So that's how discipline can actually be freedom, right? Here's what he says, okay, Dr. Khavari. We usually tend to equate discipline with hardship because it either demands something that we are not inclined to do or it requires that we don't do something that we want to do. But discipline doesn't have to be hardship. It can even be a great source of joy. Now this is the point, it is permissiveness, the opposite of discipline, that is deceptively attractive, yet the cause of much unhappiness. A great disservice that a parent can do to a child, for instance, is to be permissive. In the case of the child, discipline involves lovingly but firmly setting the limits and demanding that those limits be observed. Permissiveness, in actuality, is a form of abuse, often practiced in the guise of kindness and protection of the child's freedom. Parental permissiveness also may represent the absence of caring or maybe laziness in enforcing a code of conduct. Regardless of the reason, permissiveness is a loose steering mechanism. He goes on to say, discipline is not only for children or for controlling other people's behavior. It is, above all, for ourselves. Self-discipline is a great secret of happiness. It is not the same as being unkind or harsh. It is self-discipline that keeps us on track along our path. When we are on track, we're happy. Going off track makes us unhappy. Quite interesting, isn't it? If you think about that in terms of, let's say an exercise routine. And you're exercising every day, and all of a sudden you decide, you just doesn't have it in you anymore, and you stop exercising. Well, then you start to feel guilty, and gee, I should have kept up my exercise routine, and that kind of stuff. That's going off the track, right? That kind of stuff. And likewise, if you're on a diet of some sort, and eventually you start eating more of what you shouldn't be eating, and then you start to feel guilty, and that's going off track. And you're not happy when you do that, right? So again, it's called spiritual intelligence. It's backwards, but maybe you put it in a mirror, put a mirror up, it might come around the other way so you can actually read it, okay? So that was quite interesting. I just like that. Now, a quote from the Sacred Moments by Linda Kavalin Popoff, okay? Hi, Leanna, and Samantha, and Stephen, Stella. Welcome. Here's a quote I'd like to read for you now. Actually, there's so many of them here. Let me get the right one first. Discipline. Here we go. Procrastination is the thief of time. No doubt, right? I like this one too. When people say sometimes, I'm just not in the mood to exercise today, or I'm just not in the mood for this, that, or the other thing, right? I love this quote by Pearl Buck. She says, I don't wait for moods. You accomplish nothing if you do that. Your mind must know it has to get down to work. Don't you just love that one? Oh yeah, and this one here. To straighten the crooked, get this now, to straighten the crooked, to straighten the crooked, you must first do the harder thing, straighten yourself. You are your only master. Who else? Subdue yourself and discover your master. So subduing yourself really is practicing that self-discipline, okay? So I hope you've enjoyed this one. I certainly did. I know every time that you're doing something that you shouldn't, and you say, got to practice that self-discipline. I hope you're happy about the double bubble yesterday, and if nothing goes wrong, if we don't get new cases and stuff, and we don't get people in the hospital and those kinds of things, then we'll be moving to level 4 and then to level 3, and it just makes me feel happy to know that we're finally turning a corner on this COVID-19. So until the next time, which will be Wednesday, but there's something else I want to say too, and that is on May 11th at 10 o'clock in the morning, we will do our regular Virtues Pick. But at the end of the Virtues Pick, we're going to have a game called the Wheel of Virtues. And I'm going to have my flip chart, and I'm going to have the blanks on there, and we're going to fill in the letters, and there's going to be prizes. Okay? So I hope I'm going to have lots of people watching the Virtues Pick on May 11th. Okay?